This is video number 16 in the Predatory People video series, and I'm going to take a break from talking about the children for a while and move on to adult relationships. I was trying to think of how to put everything into this video, and then I realized that the best way to do it is just to share a poem that I wrote years ago, because it explains this process step by step. We'll be making it into a song at some point, but this was another way to get all of this out of me. This was a first marriage, very short marriage, and anyway, this poem is called Ballad of a Battered Woman. Let me turn this fan off. It's called Ballad of a Battered Woman, and I wrote this many, many years ago. You say you love me, say I'm the light of your life. Then you call me a slut, say you want more in a wife. I gave you honesty, I gave you truth, I gave you kindness, and I gave you proof. Mistakenly thinking we'd start the right way, never dreaming I'd continually pay. For sharing my secrets, my fears, my dreams, I should have listened to my soul, it seems. When it warned me that you are cruel, you'll take what I give you and make it a tool to hurt me and betray me, destroy me one moment and the next moment lay me in a bed full of lies, on sheets soiled with shame, claiming you love me, then placing the blame for all your hurts upon my shoulders, till one day I'll look up and I'm suddenly older, feeling worthless and useless and so much colder than I ever wanted to be. You laugh at my sorrow and thrill in my pain. When I ask you to stop, you say don't complain. You condemn me and hate me and dissect me completely. Then you look in my eyes and you ask me so sweetly to believe you've never loved like this before, yet as you walk away, you call me a whore. Slap my face and then caress my cheek. You say, shut the F up, then you ask me to speak. You won't be happy till you have control of my heart, my mind, my body, my soul. Now I've become the woman that I used to scorn, and I understand how battered women are born. The first time you hit me, you swore it was the last. Now I know I should have run, and I should have run fast. God, please help me, on my knees I prayed. Please let tomorrow be a better day. First you punch my mouth, and then you give it a kiss. Well, I'd rather live alone than die with you like this. I'm through wearing glasses to hide my black eyes, and I feel my spirit beginning to rise. I'm through feeling shame, I'm through placing blame. Your way to love and mine just aren't the same. Now my spirit is free and my mind is my own. I only stayed because I wanted a home. I realized it's not a home without love, and no one loves me more than my Lord above. So that covers all the steps of an abusive relationship. It starts with, generally, most often, starts with Prince Charming, and it may be Princess Charming. You know, men get abused too, and that's not talked about nearly enough. At first, they're just like the answer to every prayer that you think. They're going to fill that hole within you that you have, that the hole in your spirit that really only God can fill. And they're looking for a vulnerable person that has no self-confidence, that doesn't feel worthy if they're not half of a partnership, that feels lonely, that's already been abused in the past, that, you know, the broken people, the lost people, that's what they're looking for. It's the spirit of the enemy behind this. The spirit, now you would call it narcissism. It's just the spirit, the nature of an abuser. They're filled with the enemy spirit that's prowling around looking for whom it may devour. And they're going to go for the basically nice people. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. They just want to be loved. That makes you an easy victim if that's where you're at. So I didn't even realize at this point that I was in an abusive relationship until I worked for the health department, and I went into a bathroom stall, and it had been just after a chaotic weekend of extreme highs and extreme lows. And on the back of the bathroom door was a flyer that said, "Are you in an abused relationship?" And I read the list in the flyer, and on that flyer, and write down the checklist. It was my life. The crazy thing is, in the past, I could identify an abusive relationship with friends. There was one friend that I had even stopped speaking to for a while because I was so upset with her because she was in an abusive relationship and wouldn't leave. And out of frustration, I was like just throwing my hands up. Well, sure as I judged her, I ended up in one myself. But it happened so incrementally. It was absolute wonderful. Nobody had ever loved me like that before. Funny, thought I was just the greatest thing walking, filled all those ego needs that I had. And then one day it was a bad day. Then it was a bad week. Then it was a bad month as I'm making excuses for their behavior. And so they're going from extreme charming to extreme hateful and mean. And then it's your honeymoon period is what they call it, where they're, "I'm sorry, I'll never do it again." And then it switches to, "You made me do it. I wouldn't have had to react like that if you hadn't done this or done that." And I want you to know that there's never an excuse for someone to abuse you. You just get away from each other. It's that simple. And if you can't be around each other without it being abusive, get away from each other permanently. So some of the indicators of being in an abusive relationship: extremely jealous. Like, it's normal to be territorial, to protect your own. You want to protect your relationship, but it's not normal if it gets to the point where they're at the extreme end of it. They're monitoring every move. They're increasingly suspicious. They're checking your odometer. You're not allowed to go anywhere without them. You're not allowed to have any friends. They begin to isolate you from everyone. And at first they'll say they're doing it for your protection, but then it just goes overboard. There's a balance between having someone that just cares for you and is looking out for you, to having someone that is treating you like property. So that also is controlling behavior is another example. They're controlling everything about you, from what you say to what you wear. And on that note, I mean, you should dress respectfully. If you're you should anyway, even if you're not in a relationship. Don't go out with everything all hanging out. But and don't accuse the man that has a problem with that of being abusive if he's just trying to say, no, you're advertising yourself like you're single and on the prowl. You don't want to do that either. Have balance, have dignity, have self-respect, and have respect for your relationship. But don't let it get into a crazy amount of where it tips over into abuse and absolute control. They have unrealistic expectations of you. I'm reading this off of a list that I found online. I don't know where the original flyer is that I looked at that day, but it's basically the same thing it's always been. I can think of an unrealistic expectation. This person got angry with me because he wanted me to sing the song, The Power of Love. Well, I'm a mediocre singer. I can sing some songs well, nothing great. No biggie. That's just not the gift that I was born with. I'm somewhere in the middle. But he got angry with me because I couldn't sing The Power of Love by Celine Dion. And I look back at that, and that's just so ridiculous that to think just an average person, no musical training or anything, could just belt that out. That's an unrealistic expectation. Isolation, we talked about that. Blames others. They're going to be mad at everyone else for what they did or problems that they caused. They never take accountability. If you see that, if there's somebody who never says they're sorry, or they say it but they turn around and do the same thing again. Oh, it's very hot in here. So I got to turn this fan on a little bit. I'm in a back room. There's no AC back here. So they blame others for everything that they do. Every problem that you have, they say it's their fault. It's your fault. Or if they do say they're sorry, they don't really mean it because they turn right back around and do the same exact thing again. Or I wouldn't have hit you if you didn't look at me like that. I can think of an example of, we were in Mexico. I was there for a job, border town in Texas, where I taught some high school teachers. It was for their continuing education, and I was teaching them ideas for increasing their creativity and bringing out creativity in their children, in their students. He tagged along on the ride. But while my job was over and we were going to cross the border into Mexico and just do some sightseeing while we were there. Well, by this time he was back to being full-blown alcoholic, and he'd been drinking since we got there, and we're just wandering around this little border town and trying to find something. Don't even remember what. And I said, let's cut through here. That was it. That was all I said. Let's cut through here. And he knocked me down in this back alley type area, and he said, "You don't tell me what to do. If I tell you to get down on the ground and give me a sex act, you shut up and do it. You don't tell me anything." And he walked away. And I was hurt. I was stunned, although I shouldn't have been, because he was volatile like this. And now I was scared because he had the car keys. And it was a van I had borrowed from a family member to even go on this job. But he had the keys, he had my passport, he had driver's license, he had everything. I had nothing. He had the money. I didn't speak Spanish, and that was a scary few hours. I did end up finding him sitting in a cantina, of course, and then we eventually got out of there. There's more to that story, but it's not important to this. In this, it says cruelty to animals or children. I did have a little girl at the time, but she was never around for the fights. It would happen when she was at the daycare, or I would think when she was sleeping, and she doesn't remember any of it. Somehow God's protection kept her out of that drama and chaos. But until the very end when I left. I'll tell that story in just a minute. So the cruelty to animals or children, he wasn't ever cruel to her. I think he knew he could not cross that line with me. And he wasn't ever cruel to me in front of her, because I think he knew she and I were very, very close. But there was one day when I came home, he didn't work, and I came home from work, and I had gotten a little chihuahua, and it was just a puppy, a little tiny puppy named Peanut. And I went to look for it. It was not housebroken yet. and I went to go check on her, just to go get the little puppy. And it was laying in the cardboard box that was basically it's a little bed, and there was a rolled up newspaper with blood on it beside it, and the puppy wasn't moving, and it was still alive, but it wasn't moving, and it had defecated all over itself very loosely, and there was blood on the rolled up newspaper, and I spun around and went, to go find him. And I was like, what? I knew immediately that he had done something to her. And I think he saw the rage in my eyes at that time, which he'd never seen before. And he backed up a little bit. I said, what did you do? And he said, I stepped in dog mess. He was cussing. And so he beat that. I'm telling you, the puppy, it really could fit in one of my hands. He beat that puppy. And so that was when I truly saw the cruel side of him. They might convince you that things that they do to you are your fault, but that wasn't that puppy's fault. And that that was different for me, because I could always tolerate a lot more for myself than I could for others. So that's right, cruelty to animals or children. Playful use of force of sex, yes, and they will also try to get you to do things that are degrading to you, that you may not want to do, but you think that you have to do because you're trying to keep them happy. And if they start saying things to you like, if you don't, I'm going to go find someone who will, that kind of thing, you got a problem on your hands. That person has no respect and no love for you. This says Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Absolutely. That's the whole Prince Charming to raging psychotic. When we first met, I have to say that he was drinking O'Doul's beer, which is a non-alcoholic beer, and that should have been a red flag to me, because if you quit drinking, you should be able to quit drinking even anything that tastes like it. That's just a Band-Aid. Your problem's not solved if you're still drinking. And so then one day he had cracked open a beer, and then it was 2, then 3, then 4, then it was a case. I mean, as much as there was there that he would get, that's how much he would drink, until he was peeing in the houseplants and peeing in the corner and raging around. Use of, past history of battering. Here's another thing. If they have really very, very, very few friends, and if none of their family talks to them, there's generally a reason for that. You may have some distance from some of your family, but if just nobody will talk to them, you need to give a little more time and learn a little more about this person before you get with them. And he himself told me a story somewhere along the line about a girl that he had really loved named Wendy, and said that he had thrown her over a balcony. When he was really drunk one time when he told me this, and he said he had thrown her over a balcony, and I think he said that he broke her back. Now I'm already in it and meshed in, and he's crying and saying he feels so guilty about that, and but that was clearly he was an abusive person, and I don't know if that story was true, but the way I saw him with me and the way things got, it was probably true. But I had no idea who Wendy was, or where, he'd come from another state. And, I was so caught up in his insanity that, I talk about red flags. I had so many red flags and so many black flags and every kind of flag there was but it wasn't until I saw that on the back of that bathroom door, and I saw it in black and white like that something kind of clicked in me, and I said, whoa, I'm literally, everything that's happening on this flyer is what's happening to me. So yeah, I'm definitely in an abusive relationship, but it took more for me to actually leave. Another thing they'll do is they'll be extremely jealous. Like he was an artist too, and he said one time he didn't work, like I said. It was my house. He moved from one woman into a house with me, a woman that he said was his roommate. Come to find out later that was a lie. But he moved into my house that I had bought or was buying, and so where was I going with that? Give me just a second. I want to catch that thought again. Use of violence. Well, I guess I can just go ahead. I guess I can just go ahead and skip on to it says use of violence and threats of violence. Well, I mean, I already explained some of that. Now at the very, very end, I'd seen the flyer. I was realizing there's a definite problem happened with the puppy. Things were just escalating. There might be a few good days, and it was so wonderful, and you feel so loved during that time, but you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. He would leave me places, take my car, the car, it was ours because we were together by then, but he didn't have a car when we met, but would leave me so that I would have to walk home miles, things like that. Just very ugly behavior. So the very last night that we were together, I'll just skip ahead to that. I don't even remember what it was we were fighting about with him. There was always something to fight about. And my daughter was sleeping. She was little. She was about 4. She was sleeping down the hall, bedroom door shut. And I don't remember really any of the words. I don't remember what we were fighting about. It didn't even matter. You're fighting about everything at this point in this kind of relationship. And if you're fighting about everything, you're fighting about nothing. What I do remember clearly is he had a shotgun, and he had recently bought that shotgun. And he had me down on the bed. The shotgun was in my forehead, and it was cocked. It's from where I was. It was cocked. His finger was on the trigger, and he was ready to pull it. And his eyes were black. If you've ever seen anybody with the devil in them, you'll see the way their eyes change. And the weird thing, and this is completely due to God, guardian angels, Holy Spirit, I felt the calmness of just like how to react to the situation. I said, please don't let her find me like this. Don't do this. Don't do this. And because I was afraid that if he shot and killed me, she would hear that, wake up, come running in there, and then he would harm her. He said, okay, I'll kill her first after I rape her. And he turned around and he headed towards her bedroom. He headed down the hall. I knew I couldn't take him. He was a big guy, very strong man. Plus he was drunk, and he was just, full of demons. Like I had said before, I knew nothing of self-defense, anything like that. The only thing I could think of, and again, it was just that peace had to be God's peace that goes without understanding, because this was back when we had landline telephones, and so I hit 911 on the phone. All I could think is, I need help. I can't handle this. 911. He heard the beep, beep, beep of the telephone, and he turned around and he came back. and he ripped the phone out of the wall. And then he started choking me. I don't know where he put the gun in the meantime. I guess when he went to get a hold of me by the throat, he set the gun down. I don't even remember about that. But so now he's choking me. I managed to throw my legs over the side of the bed onto the floor, and then we both fell in that gap between the bed and the floor. And then that's where he was beating me when the cops showed up, when the police showed up. What I didn't know is that call had gone through. And when 911 is called and nobody answers, they'll send out someone anyway. Thank you, God, that they did and that they weren't far away. So I just heard the most beautiful voice. It was the police officer, and there was two of them there, and they arrested him. They, got the story. They arrested him. I was covered in marks, and they took him to jail. He had my keys. They were in his pocket. That's another thing. They'll keep tight control of those keys where you don't have a way to escape if you want to. But be willing to go on foot if you have to. But anyway, so I had to call them because I wanted to leave Austin altogether. I wanted to get back home to East Texas and get as far away from him while he was in jail as I possibly could. And by now he had completely crossed the line because now he had threatened my daughter. So I called the police, and they actually came back, and I told them that the keys were the keys weren't in his pocket. They were in the vehicle. They were locked in the vehicle. One set, and the other set was in his pocket. And I needed that set that was in the vehicle. He had all the keys, and I couldn't. I guess I should have busted the window, but I called the police, and they came back, and they said, we'll get in trouble if anybody finds out you did that, or we did this. But they went ahead and did it because they knew the circumstances. And so they unlocked the car, and I was able to get the keys out of the vehicle and get away to get back to East Texas. So I went to go get my daughter, and she was still sleeping. She had slept, thank you, Lord, through the entire thing. She slept through every bit of it. And I woke her up, and I told her that we needed to go. And on the way back to East Texas, I just took what I could, left the house I had bought, left everything in it, left my job, which I did have to stop by there because I had no money either. I had no money for gas. I'll tell that real quick too. My boss, absolutely wonderful woman, I went to tell her, by now it's morning time, I stopped by there and I wanted to tell her I was leaving. I didn't want to just leave her in a lurch. And she gave me money that she said she had been at a festival that weekend and something told her she needed to hold on to that money. And she gave me that money, and it was enough for me to actually get to East Texas and have some food, and God bless her for that. So otherwise, somewhere along the way, I don't know what I would have done. There wouldn't have been enough gas to get all the way there. But anyway, so I'm driving with my daughter, and she told me that she was dreaming when I woke her up, that she was in the middle of a dream of Jesus and a beautiful lady that were speaking in another language. She thought it was Spanish because that was the only other language she knew. She said, and they were speaking in another language, and I couldn't understand them with my ears, but I knew what they were saying, is how she put it at 4. She said, and they were saying, it's okay, you're going to be okay, everything's okay. So Jesus came to her in that dream, and they kept her calm and quiet and in a state of peace when all this chaos was happening in the other room. God is amazing. God is amazing. So I got back to East Texas. Long story short, I got a divorce from that one, and never had to lay eyes on him again. So now I want to read to you what the Bible says, what God says love is, because that was not love. I thought that was love. The Bible tells us love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. That's what real love is. That's how God defines love. Those things that I was living through, that wasn't love. When you leave a relationship like that that's volatile, super high, super low, super intense, and even the movies will make you think that sort of thing is romantic. And then you get with a stable person who's on an even level of emotionality. They don't have real high highs and real low lows, and they have control of their emotions. You may feel like they don't really care about you. So be careful of that, because you don't have to have a super intense, crazy highs and all these mood swings and things like that. You don't want a monotone, dead relationship, but you also don't want a roller coaster relationship. Just be healthy and find someone that's healthy and in control of their own emotions too. That's not to say that everybody that has, some people do have mood disorders and they need help with that, with regulation, with medicines, but that is not an excuse for abuse. And so you need to be very, very careful and very discerning of the root of that problem. Is it spiritual in nature? Is it chemical in nature? Are they on altering substances? What's going on? And is it even worth the problems that will come with that? But don't let it cross over into an abusive relationship. One more thing I wanted to say that they'll do in regards to, they'll try to have any kind of blackmail information on you, some way to control you. They might call your work all the time. That was a problem. He was calling me like 20, 30 times a day, and I was like, I'm going to get in trouble here at work. Those are also just some things that popped in my head. I guess that's about it. Don't jump straight from one relationship into the next. That's going to get you every time. I kicked that, sorry. Just be very, very careful about that. Don't always try to replace this person with another person without seeking God's will for you first. Make sure that you're healthy first before you do that, because then you don't know, are you just with them to fill another void, or a void that wasn't filled, or you want to get yourself in healthy condition first so that you can make good decisions. And I guess that's about it. That's another kind of predatory people. They can be the ones that you choose. When you're a child, you're not choosing who your caretakers are. Or when you're an adult, you have a choice of who you're with. And don't do it out of desperation, loneliness, emptiness. Don't do it because it's somebody that you think you can marry somebody because they got a lot of money. It's a foolish thing to do too, because you'll pay for every cent if you choose somebody for that reason. Don't do it because you feel sorry for them. Don't, just, it's like each of us, if we were a cup and self-esteem and health, let's say that's a full cup, and you get with somebody that's, you want to get with somebody else that's a full cup too. You don't want a person that is doesn't have much in their cup, because they're always going to be draining you. Neither one of you will be healthy at that point. It's not your job to fix another adult. It's each of our jobs to fix ourselves, and we do that by our own self-introspection, by going to God, by exercise, by self-discipline, self-control. Those are all things we need to learn separately from other people. If you're a man and it's a woman who's constantly crying and carrying on and she's all drama, you don't need that either. If you're a man who's being abused, people shouldn't take that lightly. A lot of times, if there's which I think it's gotten better now with the law, if they go and it looks like there's been a struggle with both, they'll take both to jail. But it used to be only the guy went to jail every time. Only the man was asked to leave. Stay out of those kind of relationships. Pay attention to those red flags. Just be a lot more discerning in the relationships that you get into. It's much better to wait and be older than to jump into something just because you're lonely. So it can get you into a lot of trouble. So anyway, that's a story of abusive relationships and the Ballad of a Battered Woman. And when we put that to music with one of these music apps, I'll load that video onto this video series. So anyway, that's it, and I hope that helps you remember who God says you are, and remember what God says love is, and you'll be all right. That's it.